Okay. So in this next session, we have the honor of hearing from Maria Pallante and Emmanuel Lereno. Maria Pallante is the EVP Technology Solutions for Bond Brand Loyalty. She has more than 20 years of experience and has worked on a wide range of loyalty and CRM program implementations, including new and transitioning programs. Maria's experience spans a number of industry sectors, including financial services, retail, telecom, and hospitality. Clients have included decision makers at HSBC, CIBC, Scene, L Brands, and the Home Depot. Put your hands together for Maria. And joining her is Emmanuel Lereno, who is Precise ParkLink's Chief Digital Transformation Officer. He's a PhD in artificial intelligence and plays a key role in strengthening the company's industry-leading technology innovation and business intelligence expertise to help customers drive their digital transformation strategies. Lereno brings more than 20 years of experience in parking and mobility industry to PreciseLink and to us here today. So put your hands together for both of them.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here. It's a real pleasure. As you heard, I've been in the customer engagement and loyalty space for quite a while. And over the many years and many conversations, what I've recognized and learned is that we're all contending with similar opportunities and challenges. And what we're looking for is generating data-driven insights that allow us to take action so that we can drive business results. And so this is where business intelligence is so critical in that. So before I dive into that, I will tell you a little bit about Bond. Not spending a lot of time here, but we are a customer engagement company. We've been in the business of loyalty and customer engagement for over 30 years. We have over 800 employees in North America and Europe. And as our name says, we are in the business of creating and building bonds between our clients and their customers, as well as their employees and their channels. And we do this with a lot of different things, including strategy, analytics, and technology, as well as marketing services. And we have the privilege of doing this with a lot of different clients. and you're probably wondering, well, I still don't really know what you guys do. So I'm going to ask you a question. Ask you to raise your hand if you are a Scene Plus member. Okay, I would have been surprised if not more had raised their hands, because there are over 14 million members in that program across Canada. We support programs that are over 40 million with over 40 million members as well. And so we are in the business of working with clients on bringing data together, using that data, and creating customer engagement and retention. So both large and small companies have challenges with data and are often overwhelmed. It doesn't matter what size you are. And in fact, 90% of the world's data has been generated in the last 2 years. So we are contending with more than ever before. So I will ask you to raise your hands again if you've asked yourselves or others in your organization these questions. Like, is my data accurate? Do I have too much data? Am I collecting the right one? What is my data telling me? I know I've asked these questions of my organization in a lot of different respects, whether it's financials, whether it's related to customer engagement or other things. I'll touch on a few of these. So is my data accurate? One of the things that I often see, and this is with organizations that are billions of dollars in revenue, is they'll have databases where they have multiple references to the same customer. They don't have that single view of the customer. So that is a common challenge, as well as data hygiene problems. Do I have too much data? One of the things that we're always thinking about, because we're always looking at a unified view of the customer, is make sure that you are collecting data that you plan to use or are going to use. And with all the privacy policies that are continuing to become more stringent, we have to be really careful and thoughtful about the data that we're collecting, how we're going to use it, being transparent about that, and also how long am I keeping that data for. So there's a lot of considerations, especially when you're dealing with PII data. Now, we'll get into these other elements, but In terms of addressing the other questions here, this is where business intelligence tools play a big role. So it is a journey, and it is about starting small. We often use a framework where we talk about a crawl, walk, run approach to this. So how do you get control of your data? Of course, it starts with having the appropriate technology to be able to capture and use that data and report on that data. That is absolutely a cornerstone of this. And then it's about identifying your goals, your KPIs, and the metrics that you want to measure. I'll talk in a little bit about measurement plan, but to really effectively use a business intelligence tool, you need to make sure you're clear on what you're trying to measure and what you want to action on, because that will then inform what data you're collecting. Now, once you've done that and you've thought about all the stakeholders involved and what views they need, then you can start tracking and reporting on those KPIs and those metrics and start taking action. Again, start small and continue to build, and the process is always ongoing. It's not set it and forget it. You're going to continuously think about how you're going to continue to optimize your strategy and approach. And this is a framework we also use when we think about how we're looking at it, and I realize I'm looking at it always from a customer perspective, because we're always focused on customer-centric strategies. But in order to deliver meaningful engagement, it really does start with the data. So securely ingesting it, cataloging it, thinking about how you're creating that unified 360-degree view of that customer. That's the basis for any of the machine learning model training that we do, any AI that we're going to leverage, but that becomes the cornerstone of it all. Using that data, we then can make decisions. We can decide what customers are going to get, what content, what communication, what rewards, what offers, what discounts. So we can make those decisions, and then there's the delivery. Now it's about executing it, whether it's an app notification, an email, a mobile push notification, whatever that might be, or even in person. What are those messages that you're going to have your attendants or your representatives be informed by that they're going to deliver to those customers? So those are the ways we look at it from a customer engagement perspective. And of course, it gets down to now delivering the intelligence and surfacing that up so you can take action. So having a reporting suite, having the dashboards, and I know Emmanuel will get into the parking specific ones, but even in our world, we're constantly looking at this and providing our clients with access to these reports so that they can take action as well. And so having a standard suite, but then also being able to customize and then scale these out as required. So from a measurement perspective, as I mentioned, this is really critical. So starting from defining what your overall strategy is and your business objectives are. So defining what those outcomes are, defining what those KPIs, and I know Emmanuel's going to get into the parking specific ones, but we know occupancy is going to be important, revenue is going to be important, all of those things that then allow you to drill down into the other metrics so you can take further action. And I always say you want to have a core set of KPIs that you leverage, and then you have the metrics further below that. And the other piece of this is then once you understand what you want to measure, then you can get into the data requirements, the data sources, where are you going to collect and source all the information that you need. Think about all the stakeholders that need to have access and the views. And then that all comes together to create your measurement plan. And again, it's something that should be continuously refined over time. So data-driven decision-making, it's really essential for any business, regardless of the sector or the industry that you're in. Understanding your customers, we all want to know who our customers are, what they do, when they arrive, where they're going, why they're visiting, how long they're staying. Those are all important factors. You want to monitor performance and have a deeper understanding of your business, and then you obviously want to control your results. So now I'm going to take a little moment to talk about loyalty before we dive in further, and I hand off to Emmanuel. So from a loyalty perspective, we're always thinking about loyalty as an outcome, not just a program. We're thinking about how we make sure that someone is loyal, and you don't need to have a program specifically, if you think about Amazon Prime, you might not think of it as a loyalty program, but they've formalized a way to create a membership group or community. And so there are other ways you can create engagement and a relationship with a customer without actually formalizing a program, but I'll talk a little bit more about that here. So we've been in the business of loyalty a long time. We have the longest standing study that we do on an annual basis. And so we've been doing this for over a dozen years. Most recently, we've reached out to over 60,000 consumers around the world in over, I think it's 25 markets. And using that information, we've been able to garner an understanding of what drives customer satisfaction as it relates to the brand as well as the programs. And we use that to inform our strategies and how we continuously improve what we do for our clients. So this is just, I'll share a few stats. So as I think some people think about loyalty, we want to share some of these average results. In Canada, the average consumer has 18 programs in their wallet, digital or physical. But what I think is really important is the pink line here and the trend here. While we're seeing a little bit of an uptick, there's only 50% of those 18 that are actually active, meaning that 9 of those programs end up being participated in the last 12 months. So part of the challenge and opportunity is always to make sure, how do you make sure that you're top of mind for customers, that they have a reason to be active with you compared to others? This starts to break it down a little bit further. What makes up that 9 that are active? And so this starts to get into the sector-specific things. So payments, this is like your credit card, your RBC Avion, your CIBC Aventura or Aeroplan. That's where we see some of the portion of loyalty or your behaviors going to. And then you can see it right across from mid-frequency all the way through travel, like your Aeroplan programs and Marriott rewards, and then dining and QSR. So there is a lot of competition for your brain, for your brain space or your activity with brands today. And this will be the last slide I touch on, but one of the things that I would highlight that we've found over time is often people think that loyalty is about a discount, a reward, a financial dividend. And what we've found over years is that actually what drives member engagement, member experience, or customer satisfaction actually is more balanced than that. When you see here, you'll see the 14% is associated with that financial component. It's absolutely essential. We won't say that it's not. And especially during times like this where we see inflation, there's a lot of factors and it does play an important role, especially for that initial acquisition. But over time, what you'll see is there are other things that become just as equally important. So safety is an important factor. People want to make sure, especially during the pandemic, they want to know that you're thinking about their physical safety, and then from a data perspective, they want to know that you're taking care of their data as well. Access and privilege. So if I'm your customer, whether I'm in a program or not, and you know me, are you giving me additional privileges as a result of that relationship that we have? Think about the retail examples that you have, or Starbucks. By being a member, are you getting extra privileges, and is that the reason why that you're loyal to that brand? So that plays a role. Time savings. Think about Uber Eats. Anything that's going to drive time savings for a customer is important to them. Again, depending on the brand, there's going to be different levers, but these are some of the factors. Know me in communications, again, once someone has given up information to you about themselves, they're expecting something in return. They want you to know that they want you to treat them like you know me. Don't let me buy something, you capture that information and then present me with a promotion because I haven't bought that before. Or have you ever been on Netflix and you're like, I watched that show and they're recommending it again, right? So there are things like that when you volunteer information, any consumer, they want you to recognize that and they want you to use it. And then communications, very much tied hand in hand with knowing me. Once you, again, customers want you to know them and then make sure that you're delivering relevant and timely communications to them. And then learning, in some instances, what we also see is they want to make sure that it's easy to learn about the things that you're offering to them. So this is just a bit of what drives consumer behaviors, and it's something that we've been tracking over 10 years, and this has not changed very much over that time. Again, it can vary brand to brand, but overall, I think it gives us good indications of what we need to focus on. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Emmanuel.
All right, so thank you, everyone. So I think I'm the last thing between you guys and the open bar, so I'm going to try to be as quick as I can. Okay, so we're going to talk about, guess what, so business intelligence. This time, so I'm going to try to make some transpositions between, by the way, most of the notions that Maria just talked about and our world of parking with a few examples. So I'm going to try to get through the presentation without saying the word smart, just because in every single presentation or place where I go, everything has the word smart in front of it, and it's kind of losing its meaning over time. So let's go with business intelligence. What is it? I mean, at least in our world and what we're trying to make of it. So you're going to find a billion definitions about what business intelligence is or can be, but to us, it's really like every single set of strategies that you can put together and that can be transformed into some kind of business decision, a tactical business decision. So it's not only about the technology behind it and kind of a nice tech that you can use to extract data trends or things like that. It needs to have a purpose, and most of the time, that purpose is a business decision of some kind. So I also want to show you this real quick because I think the first person that talked today, Sarah, had a nice way of putting this. There's many complexities around how people perceive and define what is business intelligence and data mining and the extraction of correlations and decision making and neural networks and all that kind of stuff. So in reality, it's kind of a layered system, as you can see here. And in the parking industry, and not only in general, people kind of stop between floor 2 and 3. I'm going to touch base on that real quick. So the first thing that you do, and that we have to do as an industry that is already very challenging, is the data sources, so ETL, like extraction, transform, and loading of the data. The common thing to say is like the G.I. Joe thing, garbage in, garbage out. So you have to understand how you can collect that data and aggregate it with a very stable pipeline of information. It has to be clear, it has to be stable, it has to be measurable. So once you do that, most people got to that step, and then the data warehousing step, which is I build my data platform, and I can store everything into a data lake, whatever you can think about. So at that step, it's amazing. You've already achieved a lot, but at the same time, you really did nothing, in a way. Just because, although you collected, there is no what is called like meta-knowledge, which means every single information that that data can give you, you don't really have at that step the knowledge that you can extract from your data. That's where this notion of data exploration and the extraction of data correlations comes into play, and that's what people typically call data mining. The data mining is the ability to dive into the data and extract correlations. So before I move quickly to the next ones, you can already see in our industry how this makes perfect sense. We are in the world of mobility, so everything can be digitalized, collected, and then used as a way to understand your respective ecosystems. Either you are a healthcare facility or you are a city or any other environment that you want to analyze, you have to go through these processes and this specific data exploration one. And then the level above, when you're really confident with the steps below, is to get into the learning phase. So learning would be, I have enough data, I have history, and I can try to learn the behavior of my ecosystem and make some predictions based on what I already know and what I have. There's different models to do that. I'm not going to dive into that, but this machine learning, that's where you have things like we talked about this morning, all the neuroscience, so the neural networks and other technologies that allow you to do these kind of things. There's no magic there, by the way, because sometimes like the ChatGPT or like people seem to think that there's some kind of incredible smart magic behind it. There's not. It's quite actually logical, and as sophisticated as it can be, it's still very dumb as a technology. It does amazing things, as you guys love, because you guys know. It's as amazing as it's still in a very early stage, so I'm not really worried about our jobs for now. You need to look at this as a good help. It's assistance to better do what we have to do. And again, the last is, once you digest all that, you have a nice strategy that you can put into place for your business. Okay, so behind parking this time. The parking BI, so business intelligence, can benefit basically every single area you can think about. So airports, education, healthcare facilities, stadiums, whatever you can think about, you can apply these techniques. Why? Because the data management as a concept is the most generic thing you can think about. Either you are an airline industry, or you are parking, or you work in healthcare, or whatever you can think about, the techniques are always the same, and the skills that you need to put these systems into place are also kind of repeatable. So parking, let's take a quick journey through parking BI and how we can get there. So obviously the step one, that's what we saw before, it's this data collection game. So collecting data, I kind of call that like it's a touch point. So IoT touch point, IoT like Internet of Things, which means connected objects. So we are all surrounded by Internet of Things technology. Our phones, our cars, whatever we can think about today, an AirTag, anything today is connected, can upload information in real time or quite real time kind of way to central systems. So we do have today the technology through cameras or many other things that allow us to put those touch points wherever we need them and measure, right? With a certain frequency, depending on what we need to do, but that's available. So then you have the identification points. Once you put some measures, you also might want to know what are you measuring and eventually who and when. So you can have many ways of doing that. Can be through a permit, can be through a license plate, can be through sensors, but you have many ways of linking your touch point to some kind of ID. And then you will transform at the end, all that information will get there into knowledge, right? Okay, so the KPIs, defining the KPIs. So the thing is, once you try to understand what you want to do, this is actually a very hard step, because it takes you and us, by the way, as a company, when we have to work in some project, into all these questions. What is our goal? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to optimize revenue? Are we trying to control access because that's more important? Are we trying to find the equilibrium between both? Talk about revenue. What kind of payment methods do we want to accept? How are we going to manage the transient parkers versus monthlies, etc.? The customer behavior. Who are they? So coming back to what Mario was saying, who is my audience? It's a very tricky thing to identify because, again, parkers are a multitude of different people. So who are they? Where do they go? Are they all the same? Is their behavior repeatable? So, and then occupancy. That would be when, where, what's the pressure, at what time of the day, is there some specific triggers that you can associate to some behavior? So all that stuff you need to decide, you need to define. And then coming to a previous point that Maria made, you can only select so many of them. And there's a very key point in all these approaches that is incremental. You can't do everything at the same time. You have to decide what will be the different steps that you're going to take to get to a good understanding of your whole system, but you need to start somewhere. So that's also part of this whole complexity where you need to exactly understand what you want to see right away and what you can add over time. Okay, so then once you define all that, which already takes some time, you're still not there. You just collected. So you collected data, you kind of defined what you want to see, and then you get to, typically the first step is a reporting platform. So, and I make a clear distinction between business intelligence on one side and reporting on the other side. Reporting is kind of a static type of environment where you have the indicators that you measure are there and you can quantify them. I had X amount of people visiting at that time. I know I spent X amount of money, etc. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it in line with my objectives that I defined before? Is it in line with my strategy for my facility or my business? Those are all questions that the business intelligence tools will help you understand. When you get to this step, then you can try to understand how that data interacts together. And the systems that we work on at Precise, and it's been like that for a while, really are targeted to trying to make this as transparent as we can do for our customers. And we use these technologies, by the way, not only for the service that we provide to our customers, but even also internally to optimize our own processes. Because it's kind of a two-way thing to do. Once you understand what you're dealing with, you can also apply it to yourself and measure your performance to make sure that you deliver the best product possible to your market. So now, in terms of product offerings, let's have an example here. One of the things that you can derive from all this, this data digest is, here, good example, transient stalls versus monthly permit reserve stalls. We can help you decide what's the best, I would say, balance depending on what you want to do. The rates, early rates versus daily maxes versus hourly rates versus how much they should be and when they should be offered and for what time, monthly permits, flexible permits, the resources, how many do we need, when. So keep in mind that also from a global perspective, we are trying to make these systems as remotely manageable as possible. In other words, not that we don't believe that there's no people needed in the ground, because you always need some action on the field for many reasons, but these technologies are a good way to try to virtualize and digitalize as many tasks as you can, to be able to remotely control your operations, your businesses. So that's the logic that kind of feeds this whole process. Another one here, so the customers, who are they? That's also a very important one, because once you know your audience, you can then adapt your parking strategies. Again, in how many spots do I need that can be reserved ahead of time? What will be the right rate for that population that they will be willing to pay? If I'm an arena, I'm going to have an influx of parkers at some point. Who are they? Can I kind of distribute them over a bunch of facilities and make them pay different tiers depending on how far they're going to be from my place? So there's many questions that you can answer, and that can be answered, by the way, for many ways. One of them, and I think we were talking about capturing license plates and things like that. So the license plate information is not only something that you capture because you want to know who that person is or whatever. You can capture and anonymize just to analyze the repeatability of a behavior. If I have a set of plates that I know always come that day at the same time and pay that amount of money or whatever, I can kind of profile how my system behaviors, okay, through that ID. So you can also trigger some marketing initiatives that will be targeted to a specific segment of customers. So as you can see here, the BI is not only something technical that you use to measure your occupancy or your business financials. It's something that you can use over the whole spectrum of your activity, which is why it takes a decent amount of time and skills to put into place, because it's a transversal technology. Dynamic pricing is an interesting notion because it means very different things depending on who you talk to. So, and I guess there's no, I mean, at least I don't have a very specific answer. Basically, dynamic pricing is the ability to be able to adapt rates based on what you believe is a behavior that is dynamic and changes during the day. It comes directly from the airline industry, as this was supposed to show you. They use it a lot. And the problem with this technology is that it's very, very interesting to work on because it's something that can be really useful. But at the same time, it also takes time to be defined because what do you want to do? Do we want to be real-time rate change? Do we want to be able to change rates once a month? Is it still dynamic pricing? If I'm looking at a month and then changing my pricing was just analytics where I go like, oh, you know what? My behavior is like this, so I can bump it up by 10%. So very interesting, lots of literature on this one. So a quick parenthesis on my own experience. Before I moved to Canada, I worked many years in the US. And this was one of the hot topics in the industry, as you guys probably know. Although we did see some really nice initiatives, at the end of the day, most people use this tech to understand how they can make their rates move, but not so much in a real-time fashion, if that makes sense. At least that's the experience that we got over the years we've been working on that. Now, something that is kind of correlated is the idea that you can have sensor technology, I avoided the word smart, to get started with these dynamic pricing structures. So, as you know, those sensors can be very interesting as a way to give you real-time information on parking availability. So sensors can be cameras, as we saw before, can just be sensors that can detect there's a car in that stall, yes, no, it's been staying for X amount of time. So all that technology is available and is really, really useful because, so again, first of all, it helps you collect data about the behavior of your lot. Peak times, how many people and everything. The second thing is that extra mile that I can help you with journey where you say, you know what, I'm gonna help you quickly find parking. And it's a very frustrating experience, a little bit like waiting even 2 minutes in front of any kind of device that is not responding to you. When you go to get to an airport, you want to find parking right away. It's very frustrating to go 10 minutes before finding a spot. So this is actually a very good tech that allows you to solve that issue. And then obviously, at some point in time, all these technologies would be kind of natively integrated into your car. How? It's up for debate. At some point, people thought it would be part of the embedded car system software, but there's no, I would say, norm in the industry. So maybe for your phone or some other kind of tech. But it's a very active area of innovation and a very useful one. So in the meantime, how can you adjust your rates using this tech? Well, you'd be surprised of how many people do it manually, actually. So using systems that just manually push rates on a regular basis. You can obviously use some, even machine learning techniques can do that, automated algorithms that will trigger a specific rate behavior based on the inputs that you get from your system in real time. And obviously, the beautiful thing with the systems is that it's now mature enough from our side as a technology to be able to combine these techniques of changing the rates, guiding people, and giving you information for your access control kind of in real time through the dashboards. So, and this is my last slide, because I wanted to give you, I would say, my overall conclusion, because this day was very focused on this AI topic. And the way we see AI today, so again, there's no magic. What can it help us to do like right away? What we have available actually, and even if you think at the ChatGPTs of the world and all those technologies, is time optimization. ChatGPT can be an amazing tool to optimize time. I don't know, I have a daughter that needs to work sometimes in presentations, history or whatever. When she goes to ChatGPT and she asks about, I don't know, the Egyptians or whatever, give me some hints. In a few seconds, she's going to get a whole thing that she can use to then elaborate on that concept by herself, instead of searching for a long time with a book or whatever. So the AI today allows you to save time because those tools are time-saving, just like a calculator. I don't know when it came up, say 60s or I don't know, whatever. When the first calculator came up, you could do complex calculations in a split second. It was immediate. So there is no fighting the technology. It's going to be there. It's going to improve. There's using it the best of your ability to help you with your daily tasks. The other thing that it can do for you, though, is also this notion of learning and anticipating. Once you have enough data in your system, which is something that we've been working quite a lot, actually, you have the ability to then predict behaviors. And then we are in that upper level of the pyramid we saw before. It's this ability that we have based on the analytics that we can collect on the system to kind of predict what might happen. And it can be financials, it can be traffic, it can be occupancy at a given time, it can be how the rate should be changed to generate that amount of revenue with a level of uncertainty and things like that. So that's the other thing that is kind of available today. And the third one, which is, I believe is my final and most important, at the end of the day, those tools, as I said at the beginning, are not tools that will hopefully replace us. They are tools that will help us with decision making, that will transform the way we work, that will also create new and different jobs while eliminating others for sure, but it's a fantastic tool of optimization and decision making. That's how we see this technology today and how likely it will evolve over the next 10, 20 years before it really gets mature and to the next level. That's my final. A quick anecdote. When we were talking this morning about quantum computing, solving, encryption stuff. So to give you an idea, 4 years ago, the most sophisticated quantum computer would take 200 times 4 billion years to crack an encryption key, like the most advanced encryption key that we have. So we can fantasize about quantum computers, yes, we still have some time, and I would say those things will adapt to the technology. So there's risk, there's challenges ahead of us, but again, the technology is there, open, and to be embraced by our industry, that transformed in an incredible way, because for the ones that have been in parking for a long time, over the last 10 years. So hopefully the next 10 will be even more revolutionary. And thank you so much for bearing with me. Drinks soon, I promise. Thank you.